It's time to experience the O on the Original Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Mark Maradei.
Hey, welcome to the Original Sports Podcast, everybody. We used to be the Steel City Nation podcast, and we decided to retweak, rework, and redo things. And we are now going to be the Original Sports Podcast with Mark Maradei. And we're starting season 2. We are going to roll our season forward. We have provided you with a lot of interesting guests, a lot of interesting facts, a lot of interesting talk. And I thank everybody who joined us to this point. Hopefully you'll continue being a guest of ours. Our new format is going to be something like this. We're going to have our barbershop crew, whether it's the guys you see with me right now, or K-Watt joining us, or some other new individuals who come in and do a guest appearance, or, however we choose to do it. But we're going to have our barbershop crew once, if not twice a month. And when we get those guys in, we're going to talk all sports comprehensively. We're just going to hit and pick what's hot at that time. For us, currently, we're going to look at the Masters. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with boxing, what I call a little bit of boxing blunders, some of the early season baseball stuff, and the NHL trade deadline. And finally, we'll wrap up today's show in terms of what's going on in sports. We're going to wrap it up with some NCAA sports, not necessarily the sports per se, but what goes on with the NCAA right now in the portal. So let me go ahead and introduce, I'm going to let my guys introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Will. Go ahead, Will.
What's going on? I'm Will the Thrill. Excited to be here.
You sound thrilled. T?
Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm great. I'm glad to be here for the rebrand and the review of what's going on in sports.
Yeah, nothing like relaunching. Like I said, we had over 3,000 downloads or so just on the audio podcast for the first 40 episodes or so. And I'm real excited to see where we go from here. Men, let's get right into this. Masters. Before I actually talk who the leaderboard is right now and what's going on, what's your favorite? British Open, the Masters, PGA Championship. What do you guys like?
Well, I'm going to have to say, if I don't, I'm going to speak for William. If he doesn't say the Oakmont, if he doesn't,
US Open.
That's right in his back. That's right in his backyard. That's exciting because they travel around. The Masters, you got the Amen Corner. It's always at the same location. Then you have the British. They move that around a little bit. I like seeing the different courses.
Yeah. How about you, Will? Yeah, you feel the same?
Yeah, I also think there's just something like special about the Masters. It's like the same thing every year, like the tradition, the green jacket. It's like it's special, and like every year you can see like the guys winning it. Like it means like so much to get that green jacket every year.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I like the Masters just from that standpoint. It's kind of interesting to see who comes out. And I feel like it's always a guy who comes out of the woodwork. It's usually never who you expect. This year's leaderboard right now, when I took a look at the leaderboard before we start recording, Hideki Matsuyama, Zalatoris, Skypley, Leishman, Rose, Connors, Spaeth, Harmon, Ram, Reed, and Finau. I think I pronounced that correctly. And there's like 4 or 5 Americans, and then you've got a plethora of some other guys from other places, which makes it kind of interesting. You like I said, it could be anybody's show. It could be anybody's show. Any weekend surprises for you guys based on that so far?
Well, I think the first surprise is that the reigning champ Dustin Johnson didn't even make it to the weekend. And then yesterday with Matsuyama, he shot 7 under yesterday, which was like, I thought Justin Rose was going to kind of run away with it. It looked like it. And then he shot 7 under yesterday and kind of rose up through the leaderboard, which surprised me.
Yeah. Right now, I'm just taking a peek at it. Ram jumped up 18 spots. He's at 6 under in 3rd place right now. I was going to mention Dustin Johnson. McIlroy also out. Didn't make the cut. So Thursday, Friday, they're done. I liked Bailey Horschel's slip and slide going down the hill. He spent a lot of time in the water. He had another shot today out of the water. That was a lot of fun. And how about Matt Wolf getting disqualified because he signed his card after the 18th and it had the wrong score on it. He put the wrong score on, so he's disqualified. He wasn't going to make the cut anyway. But I definitely, the surprise of the weekend, I'm rooting for Matsuyama because he will be the first Japanese player to ever win a major golf tournament, not just the Masters, but a major golf tournament. And this would be huge for the nation of Japan. They would embrace that fully. And I was listening and reading that this would just be huge revenue wise for the sport itself in Japan. And I think that, they're always golf is always looking for that to embrace and to get recognition, notoriety. And I think this would really help in many different ways.
I'd love to see the next. Well, there's not going to be another Tiger Woods. You guys know that, and I know that. Okay, but I'd love to see the next guy who can carry that sport a little bit, like Tiger did for the longest time. He just kind of. There's nobody there anymore who has that draw, that appeal, that everything about him was so. He was the sexy guy of the tour. It misses that, don't you think?
Definitely, but with that, and everyone's still rooting for him now. He'll come out and
Of course,
and they'll still root for him, and I would too, because for the longest time I wanted to see him beat Jack's record, and say eyewitness history. But I think right now the breeding ground for golf is you have a lot more competition with, like we said, Johnson and McIlroy. They didn't make the cut. Johnson's the reigning champ. He won it last year.
Yeah.
You have Rose and Spieth, and you have a lot more competition. You don't just have a guy right now dominating. And I think that's good for the sport because, people get kind of tired of watching just one guy. But it was fun. It's fun right now.
I still think every sport in some way, shape, or form needs to have the face of the sport. Will, you're a big golfer. I know you are. You played through high school and everything.
Yeah.
In your opinion, who do you think's the face of golf then?
I mean, for probably 4 or 5 years, Jordan Spieth was like looking like he was going to be not the next Tiger Woods, but he was going to be like the face. And then he kind of fell off, I think, at the Masters a couple of years ago where he just blew up. I would probably say Dustin Johnson's probably the face, but probably not making the cut here. I think they really need to get but I think right now it's pretty wide open for anyone.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm waiting for the next guy to come out and actually break on the scene and be that person. One of my favorite things that happened over the weekend is when Rory hit that shot out of the woods and he hit his father. It just kind of cracked me up. Everybody's had some moment like that where they've done something in sports, whether it was as a little kid or as you've gotten older, you've done something and you're out with your buddies, you're golfing, you're doing something, softball, and something always happens. You guys ever have anything like that happen to you?
Well, first of all, let's just say I know how Rory feels. I spend a lot of time in the woods when I'm golfing. All right. So, yeah, it actually happened to me twice.
Are you trying to say you're one with nature?
Oh, I love nature when I'm golfing. I try to go off the beaten path. These guys, they could spot me probably 30, 40 shots and I'd still lose. But we were fooling around in the backyard at my one friend's house one time. And, my ball has a tendency just to go around and hook. So I perfect shot around the house. I hooked it. And then next thing I hear is someone screaming. I hit him in the back of the leg. Big welt. I mean, if he was a pin, I would have been really happy. But I remember one time also at Vandergrift, you're supposed to drive. I don't know if it's the third or fourth hole. You're supposed to drive out because you can't see. There's a drop.
Yeah.
And I hit a perfect shot. And it was so perfect. I think I almost hit somebody. I came to the green. I was like looking all over. The guy's like, "You looking for your ball?" "Yes, sir." And I was probably like 16, 17. He goes, "It's in the damn woods. You almost hit me." So I know how Rory's dad feels because I hit a couple people. And I still apologize. Sorry about that, guys.
You gotta love guys. Will, you ever have a situation like that happen to you?
I've never hit anyone, but like my first year golfing, I actually got hit. And like I was like, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just like walking and then someone swing. I was like holding a club in my hand and the ball hit me and I hit myself in the head with the club. And it was like a whole ordeal. I had to go get a concussion test. It was like it was not the greatest day on the course.
Did anybody have a video camera out catching that one? That sounds
No,
like
they
something that would
didn't, but
go viral.
it definitely looked pretty ridiculous.
So I have no golfing stories. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at it. My ball just either rockets one direction or the other, nowhere near where it needs to be. I probably can play with 3 or 4 sleeves of balls every time I play, which I do. But I do have a great story from when I was a kid. I was playing Little League Baseball, and my best friend was pitched for the Cardinals, and I was on the Giants back in the day. And he was always kind of a smart ass when we were kids, but he was still my best friend to the bitter end. And he rails back and he throws a fastball and he hits me right in the private area. Literally, thank God I had a cup on. Cracked the cup. I survived it. I went down like a ton of bricks. I don't know how you hit somebody like that. I don't know how I got myself in that situation, but that was just insane and I never let him forget that ever throughout the course of his life. I made sure that he remembered that he did that. And then he started spurring his son on, telling his son, hey, if anybody gives you some garbage, because his son's a pretty good pitcher, if anybody gives you any garbage, go ahead and throw it their junk. You'll get them set straight. So, yeah, that was fun, though, what Rory, I can only imagine the conversation with his dad after that happened. So let's talk a little bit about some boxing stuff going on. Not that boxing is the sport anymore. It used to be back in the day. I can remember watching fights as a kid on NBC with my parents, Ali fights and things like that. But recently, the Paul brothers, Logan Paul, what's his brother's name? Jake Paul. Jake's the one who just fought Nate Robinson, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he knocked him out cold. I actually watched that fight because I wanted to see the Tyson fight. But Logan Paul is supposed to fight Mayweather. It's been canceled twice. What are these dudes doing? They're YouTubers who are trying to step into the ring with particularly in this instance, a seasoned veteran boxer, although he's older. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about that? A YouTuber who wants to fight a veteran boxer who's like he was at the top of the game. That dude carries around $1 million in his wallet.
I mean, if they can do it, and I mean, if he wins, like that just skyrockets his career. And I mean, like, I think that's what they're really just trying to go for. Like, if they can make it, they'll make it. If he gets knocked out, people will be like, oh, it's like he's one of the best boxers in the world. It's like, there's nothing to lose from it, but there's a lot to gain from it on his side.
No doubt. And you got Snoop D-O Double G promoting him, right? He's putting money on it. He said he's calling people in to take him on. And he challenged Dana White. Dana White's like, dude, listen, I'm 51. I'm not about that. I'm just in it to promote my thing. I don't know. It's kind of weird. People are saying he can't box, but then he's in there and he's beating up Nate Robinson. So Shaq comes along and Shaq says, hey, you want to fight the NBA? I got someone for you, Kendall Gill. I don't follow his boxing career, but I think it'd be, these celebrity matches. I think they used to run those on MTV with like, This is like real world celebrity matches. Why not? Let them have fun, beat the crap out of each other. I'd watch it.
I think they were called celebrity death matches or some stupid thing like that. They had claymation figures that they'd stick on there. That's when MTV actually was a little interesting to me. That you talk about Snoop Dizzle. I remember watching the Tyson fight. I watched the Jake Paul. In fact, one of my good buddies was here watching with me. He's like, you need to get in on this action right now. Jake Paul's going to knock Nate out, guaranteed. He kept trying to talk me into placing a bet on it while we were sitting here. And I didn't listen to him. Lo and behold, bang, there goes Nate Robinson. He was out cold. But
he's a big guy. Paul's a pretty big guy.
Yeah, he was. He was pretty jacked. He looked like he knew what he was doing. Like, to me, I mean, what do I know about boxing from that perspective? But he looked like he knew what he was doing, and it was kind of interesting to watch. But I really tuned it in to watch Tyson fight. I don't know. Did you guys watch that Tyson fight?
I didn't. I saw the highlights of it though.
Yeah, Tyson actually won that thing.
Yeah.
Watching two old men fight like that, though, that was a little painful. Tyson came out in his short boxers and everything. He was still pretty jacked for a 50-year-old guy, but now there's speculation that he's going to fight Evander Holyfield. Sizzle, would you watch out Holyfield Tyson fight?
Yeah, no doubt. I would like to see Holyfield's second year get bit off. I was, a big Tyson fan. And talking about the face of a franchise or the face of a sport, I mean, Tyson was that. And I mean, everybody either rooting for or against him, he was badass. And I would like to see it, but we're starting to get into some George Foreman-esque type fighting ages.
Yeah.
Tyson's 54 and Holyfield's 58. They're going to really hurt somebody. But it's kind of like almost a pretty slow dance going around there with those guys getting up there.
The punches aren't the same though. Like I watched the Tyson fight. Tyson won that fight. I hate to tell everybody, but Tyson won that fight. And my feeling was they made it a draw just because they wanted people to tune into another fight like that, which is perfectly fine. I hate to tell you this, but I'll probably spend the $50 or whatever and have some people over and watch the Holyfield Tyson fight if it goes down. But like, I loved boxing when boxing was really a decent sport, when there were some guys out there who made it interesting. And it seems like every time I want to buy into boxing, whoever the premium name is just disappears.
There's nobody right now, it doesn't seem like there's anybody right now. And Rip Marvelous Marvin, he just last month passed away.
Yeah.
So there's a whole line back in the 80s, 90s of guys probably riddle off. Right now, there's nobody. But there's nothing exciting with that sport right now.
No. And you would think that maybe coming out of the Olympics after this year, you might find some. Usually that's where you found some guys. Isn't that like how Oscar De La Hoya, he fought in the Olympics, and the next thing you know, he's a big time guy, a big name, and we're watching him box professionally. And I hope somebody comes along. I think it's a great sport. I love MMA as well. Like, I'm an MMA guy. I like to watch it. In fact, coming up down the road for the show, I've got Nick Lembo, who is a big MMA promoter, big guy in the New Jersey area. And I'm looking forward to having him on and talking some MMA. In fact, I possibly will have a fight doctor on in the not so distant future as well. A guy by the name of Dave King, who he's the fight doctor in Atlantic City. So I do like that stuff. I'm looking forward to doing more shows with those kinds of guys. Baseball, early season studs and duds. Men, what do you think? Who are Sizzle, early season studs and duds for you?
Well, the early season stud for me would have to be Ohtani from California. I mean, the guy has 3 home runs. He's batting .294. He throws a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Oh, he's a pitcher? Yeah, and he's batting second in the lineup. So he stands out to me. Of course, his teammate Mike Trout, he's on the leaderboard and hitting. I like the juniors, Vladdy Jr. in Toronto, and Tatis in San Diego. I think Padres are going to make a run for it. I think they put together a really good team. They got the pitching. They got the hitting.
He's out for the year.
Oh, Tatis is out for the year now?
I think so.
Oh, I did not hear that. I knew he was on the injured list. I didn't know he went down for the year.
I didn't know the whole year.
They said. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. I still think they got Machado. They got some sticks that will still keep them around. I love Soto. He jacked one last night. It was ridiculous in Washington, but I mean, they're in the basement right now.
I can't believe they're 1-4. I was shocked that they're one. I was shocked. I was looking at baseball divisions. you know, I know you got your pirate hat on. Now you got your pirate cup up while you're getting a little drink. I can't believe that the Nationals are 1-4. They've got a hell of a young lineup, sprinkled with some veteran guys in there. Their pitching looks pretty good. You know, I was shocked. And I know, you know, they're only 5 games into it. In fact, they lost that whole first series. So, Will, studs and duds.
One of the studs for me is the catcher for the White Sox, Yerman Mercedes. He's batting .556 and has 7 RBIs. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
And then another one, I hate to say it, but a Reds player, Tyler Naquin, he has 5 home runs and 14 RBIs. And last year, he only had 20 RBIs the whole season. So,
yeah, I was going to say there's 2 Cincy guys that are in the top 5 home runs. They're 9 home runs combined. I don't think
they played the Pittsburgh Pirates. What do you expect?
Yeah.
They're playing double-A pitching at the major league level.
Pirates are getting hot now. 2 straight.
We'll see. We'll see. You know, it's a long season. But you know, we talked about this last time we did a show together. I really wish baseball would consider some sort of spending floor. If you don't want to have a salary cap, at least have a spending floor. It's just no fair. Fair to people who are fans in Pittsburgh year after year. You know, when you got a guy like Trevor Bauer who signed for $40 million for 1 year, and then you have an entire ball club who's making $35 million. Like, how is that equality in baseball in terms of spending money? And I'm tired of hearing the small market crap. I'm just tired of hearing it. Spend your money. The guy in Pittsburgh nutting is what? The 5th wealthiest owner in baseball. Spend your money, put a product on the field. You think he'd take a look around at the other organizations in Pittsburgh that are professional sports, the Penguins, the Steelers, and see that they fill those stadiums, those arenas, whatever. They pack them, they sell out, they make a ton of money.
I know we weren't going to go here, but I'm going to just ask this question. Were you surprised A-Rod went after a basketball team? I thought, hey, maybe he would, if he's looking to buy sports teams, buy a baseball team. If anything, that's what he knows, right?
Yeah,
he
tried to get the Mets.
Oh, he was?
He tried. He got outbid.
Okay, I didn't know.
It was Jay-Z. Wasn't Jay-Z trying to get the Mets too? Or something?
I think, yeah, a bunch of people were trying to get the Mets.
He was part of a conglomerate of people that were trying to get in on it. I knew that. I didn't know it. Maybe A-Rod was with Jay-Z and that conglomerate of people. I'm not 100% sure.
But I know it's super early. The Yanks are in last place, though. Talk about spending and money. And again, it's 2 weeks in, but the Yankees are in last place.
Yeah, but you know, in the long run, a team like the Yankees, when they need to, they can make a deal to bring guys in and never lose a beat in their minor leagues. That's the one thing people don't understand about a team like the Yankees, or even, I'm not a big Red Sox fan, but I admire some of the stuff they do. They bring a lot of guys through. Yes, they spend money on guys, but they bring a lot of guys through their organization that they draft and they develop. And even if they trade a bunch of guys away, they still have another group of guys that are coming up through that are going to be productive. I'm not sure what those organizations do to make themselves productive at the minor league level, still trade guys away. But, you know, some of these teams that are perpetual losers need to take a look at that, study what they do. I'm hoping that, you know, some of those teams like Cleveland, who really has gone backwards in terms of that kind of stuff, maybe the Marlins, maybe Pittsburgh, I'm hoping that they get themselves together at that minor league level and rise up and make some moves. You still have to go ahead and spend a little money, get some veteran guys in there. You still have to pay those guys. Look at what the kid did in Pittsburgh, Kebron Hayes, when they wanted to give him a long-term contract. He was kind of like, let's just kind of wait and see here. You know, I mean, talk about a guy who could be a face of an organization. It could be that kid, but he might be a little smarter than most guys that came through there. For example, Polanco, Marte, and I hate to say this, even Andrew McCutchen. My guys, I was kind of paying attention to baseball, and I stumbled across something called the Tuffy Awards or something like that. And these are guys that they're guys who maybe were long-term guys in the minors and have made a fast start. Might be a guy who had a high ceiling. They had a good season a few years ago and are now doing well, or it might be kind of a comeback guy. So I've got first baseman Nate Lowe from the Rangers, who started out like a house of fire batting. I've got outfielder Cedric Mullins from the O's, Akil Badu from the Tigers, who talk about another team who's been in the abyss for a long time. Julian Merriweather, who's a right-handed pitcher from the Blue Jays. Michael Taylor, you guys remember that name, Michael Taylor? I think it was like 2017. He was projected to have a high ceiling, kind of fell off. Well, he's with the Royals right now. He had a fast start. Second baseman from Colorado, Colorado's another team that just, they don't seem to get it. I had a conversation with somebody recently about how Colorado, just internal workings of the organization, just does not understand what it takes to win. Jake Arrieta, he looks kind of where he was 4 or 5 years ago, watching him pitch the other day. I don't know if that's because the rest of the Cubs staff is not up to snuff like it was when they had guys like Lester with Arrieta, but he looks like he's rebounding. Right-handed pitcher Cesar Valdez, who's with the Orioles too. In fact, the Orioles have had a really strong start. I've been extremely pleased with what I've watched with them. And then again, Mercedes from the Sox. Interesting and fun to see that happen. I'd love to see the Sox make a go at it. It's going to be fun to watch them with La Russa's the manager there, right? Tony La Russa. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how he actually lets things transpire on his watch going forward. He's a different kind of manager. He's an old school manager. And I guess we'll just see how that happens. Man, the NHL trading deadline. As we record this, it's less than 24 hours away. It started out with a couple of guys moving here and there, and then I felt like New Jersey made a dump to the Islanders. They got rid of Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, who are two instrumental guys in New Jersey. Last year, their contract. They got rid of them for virtually nothing, though. A number one pick and, like a prospect or say, it wasn't anything significant that made me say, oh, that was a level trade. They really heightened what the Islanders can do if they can find a place to kind of put Palmieri and Zajac in. What do you think about the NHL trading deadline? Do you guys have any thoughts on how things are going to transpire here? Because the NHL has been pumping out some really good games, getting ready. And I've talked to some people about them making that move to ESPN. I think that's great for the NHL. Young, some thoughts on that?
Well, other than Palmieri leaving New Jersey and going to the Islanders and having to shave, I think he's happy as can be. I mean, he's on a contender right now. They're competing. They're tied for second in the East. They're in first, or the Caps are in first, and then the Pens are right behind them. A pickup, the Buffalo Sabres are dropping teams like it's the last hour of a flea market. They're getting rid of them. It reminds me of Dan Shapiro that one year in fantasy football. Guys out there. He's throwing guys out there hoping someone picks him up for whoever, whatever, right? And it's like I saw Eric Stahl going to Montreal. He's been around, but he's
there. Yeah,
he's really helped them. They're making a push to get that last spot in the North, which is really interesting. And the teams are in the basement. They're just dumping guys, and those teams who are sticking around trying to make the run for the Cup or that last playoff spot are picking some guys up. Yeah, and it's quite interesting.
Will you follow those hockey trades very closely?
A little bit, but I just actually got an alert on my phone that the Pens traded they got Nick Delarius from the Anaheim Ducks. Just happened. I don't know much about him, but
me neither.
Just happened.
Well, there it's on my phone now too.
Yeah.
it's interesting that I want to say he's a winger, right?
I think, left wing.
Yeah, so I want to say that who did they move on from? That'll be interesting to see who they dealt away. The Ducks are in the basement. In fact, another future guest I have coming on is a guy by the name of Josh Brewster, who does a post-game show called Duck Calls. And he's going to be coming on the show in the not so distant future. And we're going to talk about what's going on out there in Anaheim. I love their goalie, John Gibson. He's a Pittsburgh guy. I thought when we started out really slow with Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith, there was a lot of rumor that Pittsburgh was going to deal somebody, at least a couple of people, to Anaheim and bring Gibson back, moving one of those goalies and, another player, maybe draft picks, whatever. And then Rutherford was gone and things have kind of changed direction there. But we're going to talk about what's going on with that organization, because the Ducks have been kind of abysmal the last few years, and it's going to be interesting to see him. Pittsburgh loves to trade with the Ducks. I don't know why. I don't know. You go back and look at some of the trades over the last 4 or 5 years.
They're out of division, out of conference,
Yeah, and the chance of seeing them is only in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Like you think about it, the Jets to the Islanders. I mean, not the Jets, the Devils. There's like, I was always under the impression and thought that you're not going to trade within the division. You're not going to, it doesn't matter if you are in like the worst position or place, you're not going to do anything to help divisional rivals get better.
Now, those guys going from the Devils to the Islanders, they don't really, depending on where they live, they don't even have to move.
Yeah.
It's the last year of their contract, so chances are they're not going to move. But even if they like and get offered to stay with the Islanders and it's a fair deal, they're just going straight up the road. They're not going that far. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a drive, but you're not really leaving a whole lot. You're going very close. I don't believe in trading within the division. I'm with you. Some big trades within the division that I can remember happening were with the Penguins and the Flyers years ago, when the Penguins picked up like Shell Samuelson and, they traded Recchi out there. There were some guys that got moved around from that perspective, but usually you never see that happen like that. Hockey is the only sport that I see that happen in more than anything. Speaking of that kind of trade, who do you think has the best trade deadline? And when I say that, here's what I mean, men, and I want your thoughts on this. I mean, what sport really makes a trade that is going to be significant to push their team to the next level to make a run at a championship? Because you see trades happen in the NBA. You now see them more in football. And that's because Belichick has done a great job of doing some wheeling and dealing. I will give him credit for that. You see trades happen in Major League Baseball, a lot of push at the end. The buyers and sellers at the end in Major League Baseball are so different than most other sports, as well as hockey. That's a big trade time. Like this next 24 hours, like I said, is going to be huge in the NHL. So what sport? Go ahead, Will. What do you think?
I think the MLB probably has the best trade deadline. I think like when you said like the buyers and the sellers, there's usually more buyers than sellers. So I think it makes it like there's a lot of teams competing and having like the best offers. And I feel like there's usually 2 or 3 like really good players that like usually you see in the playoffs and you're like, oh, they got traded, and they usually come up and make some big plays for playoff teams.
So
I'm just going to have to say, we talked about it beforehand. I think the NHL right now, and the reason why I'm thinking right now is because it's on a 56 game schedule this season. And it is so close with the standings for those top 4 in each division to make or break the playoffs. And I think right now they're holding everybody's attention, instead of 82 games, 56, and one win here or a couple losses there could make or break their future. And so they're holding out. Like I said, some of these teams are having wholesale fires and they're just getting rid of guys, but strategically those teams who are making a push for it are picking up some really good deals.
You got to be willing to try and fleece somebody at this point in time. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to pull a little fleecing off. I think me personally, if I was a GM, I kind of like the way you can do this and get rentals, but I'm more of like, I need this guy for more than just a rental. You know, if I'm giving up a draft pick, if I'm giving up an NHL ready guy, unless I'm swapping a third liner for a third liner or a fourth line guy for a fourth line guy or a backup in baseball or something like that, unless I'm doing that, I need the guy for more than just 2 months. You know, I go to that and I think about people like, well, I'll give you a prime example. Okay. And I know I keep going back full circle to Pittsburgh, but they got Patrick Marleau last year. He was non-existent. And here's a guy who never won the cup. And part of the reason they brought him in was for leadership. Another part of the reason because they thought he had the hand still to score some goals. He was an enigma. He was invisible on that team. And I know they only gave up a 6th-round draft pick, but guess what, guys? That's a team that only has like maybe 3 draft picks or something like that going into the draft this year, into the NHL draft. So, you know, you got to be strategic when you do that. I know there are certain guys that are wheelers and dealers. I think that those guys who look at the bigger picture outside of just making a deal are the smarter guys. You know, I mean, for Pittsburgh, they've got Malkin who's going to come back. They've got Kapanen who's going to come back. They still have to get Tanev back as we speak. We don't know. They still don't have Teddy Bluger, who's a top shelf third line center this year. They still don't have him back. You know, why do you need to make a trade if you've got these guys coming on board? It'll be interesting to see what they dealt to get who you said they got, Will, for Pittsburgh. And it's going to be interesting to see. Here's some other names that I've heard. And by the time this airs, some of these guys might be gone. Matthias Ekholm, who's a defenseman from the Predators. Philip Forsberg from the Predators. He's only 28. Rickard Rakell. Okay, there's another Anaheim Duck. He's 27, but he's got a.
There was rumor that the Pens might get him because he's good in the middle.
But guess what? He's a $5 million hit on your cap. Unless you move some money, you can't get a guy like him. Taylor Hall, who's, God, you talk about a guy who just disappeared 2 years ago. He was the MVP of the league, the MVP, and he is 0 up in Buffalo.
There's something going on in Buffalo. Yeah, look at the team.
I just don't know what it is. It has to be upper management. It just, in my opinion, that's the only thing I can think. I mean, I'm not up there. I don't run that organization. I'm not the owner, but it has to be upper management. Sam Reinhart from Buffalo. You know, there's a kid I'd love to have. He's only 25 years old. Eunice Corpusalo from the Blue Jackets. Corpusalo is only 26. Granlund from the Predators. There's a 29-year-old center. Talk about somebody you can plug in the third line, maybe the fourth line. And here, Nick Foligno, 33 years old. Okay. Would you like to have a 33-year-old guy like that who's never won a cup and probably be driven? Probably. You could probably get him for a song. So a lot of those guys are from the Blue Jackets too. Blue Jackets and Predators are really kind of suffocating themselves along with the Sabres. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Hey, speaking of hockey, I want to throw this out at you guys and get your opinion. This week, or I think it was early in this week, Brandon Dubinsky, he drew a comparison between Crosby and Ovechkin.
Oh, yeah.
And he said basically that Ovechkin's a better player than Crosby because Ovechkin didn't bitch, cry, moan, and groan like Crosby always did. And they asked Sidney Crosby about it. And Sidney Crosby said he's entitled to his opinion. If you have any other questions about hockey, go ahead and ask me. Will, in your opinion, being a sports fan all your young life, the better hockey player comprehensively, is it Sidney Crosby or is it Alex Ovechkin?
I think it's Crosby. It might be a little bit biased because I'm a Penguins fan, but I feel like Crosby is a better all-around player. I think Ovechkin might be the better scorer, but like all around, I think Crosby is better at assists. He's better just making the team better. Like he's just better all around.
Stizzle, you've been to games. You've seen
No
both
doubt.
of those guys play for a long time. Your opinion?
No doubt, and I'm extremely biased, but I think in that bias, I've come to appreciate Ovi's game and realized, okay, I don't just hate him because he's on the Caps. I like him because he's a phenomenal hockey player. With that said, all around, I think Crosby's a better player because when's the last time you've seen Ovechkin on a PK? When's the last time you've seen him, slicing and dicing and making passes that are just incredible? He sits at the circle and just cranks them up. I'm sure he has a lot more. He has over 700 goals or something like that, right? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I just come to appreciate his game more, and I like him because he's a great player. But I would definitely say Crosby, he's matured so much, and people still holding on to the fact that he cries and this and that. I mean, get over it. He's a great player, and it's like 1A, 1B.
He's a coach on the ice. His job is to find out the facts from the officials. I heard. Go ahead, real quick. He even specifically gave an example of a time he kind of bitched and moaned when he was very young in his career. But after that, people have come to understand that that's the job of the guy on the ice. That, it looks like because they stick the camera on him that he's whining and crying, but he's trying to get the facts about whatever's going on is going on. Officials don't always come to the coach or to the player and say, this is what happened. This is why I'm calling this. This is what's going on. Crosby is a huge thinker. I had a guest on my show, Jesse Marshall, and we talked about Crosby and where he is in his career. And Crosby has always been the same way. He is a meticulous, articulate hockey player who sees things well before they happen, as all great players do. His job is to make his team better around him, and he does that by doing what he does on the ice with leadership and with his skill level. When he goes to the bench, he can't play with just any guy. Whoever's on his line has to be a guy who's willing to listen to him. Jesse Marshall said that he talks nonstop on the bench. He has a freaking iPad in front of his face, and he's showing who's ever on his line, hey, look, this is what we saw. This is what we're doing. This is what happens when we get in this situation. This is what I want you to do because it looks like this is how they're going to adjust to it. And he said,
that's amazing.
It just can't be anybody who plays on his line. And that's why some of these guys who come through who are terrific hockey players, don't misunderstand me. They just don't have that mentality that Crosby has about playing the game.
Yeah, that's amazing for two reasons. Number one, that turnaround time is so much quicker in hockey as opposed to, say, the NFL, offense and defense, when, the offense comes off and they're looking at the iPad or whatever. And then the other thing is, I was going to say, I forget who it was, said Crosby's the hardest player he's ever played with, hardest player to ever play with, because he's constantly thinking and he's in their ear about that.
Yep.
And he said, I just want to be out there playing and let things happen. But he was very, like you said, detail oriented, strategic, and purposeful.
That's why Kapanen is meshing with Malkin, because that's the style of Malkin's play. And that's why you have a guy like Rust and Gensel playing with Crosby, because they're thinkers and now they've got chemistry and they're on the same page. Hey, I want my friends that listen to this that are Capitals fans to know, whether you appreciate Crosby or not, I am a huge Alex Ovechkin fan. I've watched that guy transform himself into kind of like a thuggy bully type of guy on the ice who scored goals to a complete leader. I was cheering him on as he won the Stanley Cup down a few years back, and he was out having fun. And I think that he has come so far. I really admire what he has done, and I appreciate him as a player. Only guy I can think of that throughout the course of my time watching hockey which has been since I was like 5 or 6 years old. So it's been a hell of a long time. The only guy that I can actually compare him to in terms of goal scoring was Brett Hall, because Brett Hall basically did the same things, except I feel like Ovechkin is even better than Hall in a different era of goal scoring and a different era of hockey. So
did he pass him up?
Let it. Oh yeah, he passed him. let it be known that I am an Ovechkin fan. Let it be known that I appreciate his game. I don't care if Capitals fans call Crosby a crybaby, blah 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 blah, whatever. You do what you need to do. But I'm a hockey fan first, and that dude is a hockey player, and you've got to respect and appreciate him. So, man, the last thing I'd like to talk about in the show today is the NCAA. I don't care who won the NCAA championship in hockey, which, by the way, was UMass, which is amazing. It was their first NCAA hockey championship. Don't care that Baylor won the national title in basketball. That's old news. Good for Baylor. They were the better team that night. I think if they play that team 3 out of 5, you might see Gonzaga adjust and win. But what I do care about is the grass is always greener mentality with guys leaving the teams they're on, putting their name in a porthole and running out the door from the team they're on. I've watched it happen for so many of these teams, and some teams are getting really lucky and guys are transferring to them, and other teams are just being left high and dry. Right now, there's like over 2,000 athletes in the NCAA that are in the porthole. So thanks, Terry, for updating me. The last number I had was only around 1,000 guys. In basketball alone, in NCAA basketball, they just hit a record number of guys who are running out the door. Sizzle, 2,000 guys.
Yeah.
2,000 guys.
Grass is always greener. And you think that, but you're wondering, is there a deep-rooted issue on the court or on the field, in the locker room? You know, why are these guys leaving? I don't know if they're doing some kind of root cause analysis of what's happening, because it's almost like a free agency.
Yeah.
NCAA.
Yeah.
Basically. My question is, do they have to sit out a year whenever, or they still?
Not anymore. I don't think they do anymore. They changed that rule.
So they're able to bypass that now. They're able to say, yeah, I'm going to commit to you. And they come and they either have an issue with the coach or the other players. There's no chemistry. They're not seeing PT. They're not getting any playing time. Screw it. I'm out of here. Why do I need to stick around? Right.
Yeah.
And then they go somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to a school because of tradition. Maybe they're going to, like, a powerhouse, Alabama or Duke for basketball, or, Arkansas for baseball, whatever. And they're not seeing the field because of depth. And that's an issue that they didn't know up front. Hey, we got 3 first basemen. We want you on the team in case someone goes down or whatever. And so they're just not seeing it because of that. Then I don't think it's good for the sport, because I like loyalty.
Yeah.
Like once you sign on a dotted line, you're committed. But on the other hand, I don't want to be speaking out of 2 sides of my mouth. On the other hand, the aggressiveness of those players to seek out opportunities that are going to benefit them, I understand that. I do understand that, but I like the loyalty and staying with who you're going to commit with.
Well, you're an Ohio guy, go to school, the whole 9 yards. How would you like it if some of these guys transferred in there or transferred out of there? How would that make you feel after them having a couple of they had a couple of wins early in the tournament, right? Am I right? They had 2 wins?
They had 1. They beat
1
Virginia.
win, but that was a good win for them.
Yeah. I mean, I know they have 1 really good player, Jason Preston. He's got a lot of ESPN hype, and I mean, I've been talking to some of my friends. It's like he might leave, and it's like it's frustrating. It's like it's understandable. Ohio University is not a big basketball school. It's not a big school at all. But I mean, like, it's like the loyalty aspect to it. It's like, don't you want to like stay and like build what you started? And like a lot of those guys now really don't care about it. They kind of just care about like their NBA draft stock. And I mean, I guess like in the end, it's like go make your money, I guess. But it's like there's 2 sides of it.
But there's 2,000 athletes in
Yeah,
the portal. Guess what? Those 2,000 athletes are not all going to end up in professional sports. And there's guys that stay with their team that are better than those guys. I agree with you 100%. Make a mark on your own.
Yeah.
Be the leader. Take that team that you had this year at Ohio and go 3 rounds into it. Make a name for
Yeah,
yourself.
we see that in high school. We see it in high school now. We're seeing it in high school sports. Players are going to contenders in schools that they think that they're going to get the recognition to get to the next level. And it's like, hey, if you're good enough, you're going to get recognized.
20 years ago, my first head coaching gig, 20 years ago? No, 15, whatever it was. My first head coaching gig, I had two football players whose sisters I had in my class. They lived in the same house as those two young ladies. They attended a different high school and played football at a different high school because they didn't want to play for the guy who was the head coach prior to me. They knew that it was a losing program. They felt just the way you said right there, which was kind of painful for me. But in the end, I get it. I get it. But still, make that name for yourself. If you're that good, they're going to find you.
Yeah.
They're going to find you. I don't need to buy. I don't think, guys, we've seen this in high school sports for a while now. I don't need to find the best program to be the best guy on that program. I just don't. I see it happen so much at the high school level. And, where do you go with that? How do you tighten that up? Guys change addresses and things like that, and it slips through the cracks, or it just does not get investigated for some reason.
Well, we talked about that with Crosby. You make the players around you better, and that's how you build a team, not by going to the big three or, we're going to buy our championships. So
unless your situation is not a situation that is going to put you
Right.
in the best possible place. If I'm a quarterback and I play for a team that only runs the damn ball, how are they going to know that I'm a great quarterback? Okay, throwing in 7-on-7 and going to your camp, I'm going to show my skills, but that has nothing to do with what I'm doing on the field on a Friday night if I'm a high school kid.
Right.
That's just my opinion, Men, that was fantastic, breaking down some sports right there. But I want to do our final segment, shocking sports facts. Shocking sports facts. I'm going to start this off so none of you guys steal my thunder. There's a guy by the name of Victor Caratini. He's the catcher for the San Diego Padres. He caught Joe Musgrove. Joe Musgrove, who used to be a Pittsburgh Pirate and was traded for 5 prospects, by the way, this past year because he probably wasn't going to make the cut as Pittsburgh goes along for another 10 years without having a winning team. He caught Joe Musgrove's no-hitter this week. And not only did he catch his no-hitter, but I'm going to steal Will's thunder, which he tried to take from me, but it was the first no-hitter in San Diego Padres history, which blew me away. But this Caratini character caught for the Cubs last year, and in September of 2020, he caught Alec Mills' no-hitter. This guy caught back-to-back no-hitters in baseball. That's an incredible fact to me. That's like, wow, I can't believe he did that. Shocking facts. Hit me up, Will. Let's hear what you got.
Mine also has to do with the no-hitter, but I didn't know this, but up until that Padres no-hitter, they were the only team in baseball without a no-hitter. So now all 30 teams have pitched a no-hitter.
Wow. I did not know that either. They were the last of the go around, huh?
The last one. Yeah.
Sizzle, shock us.
Okay, let's go. Hey, this one's for Charlie Cool. How about the 2-day event down at Raymond James Stadium yesterday and finishing tonight? WrestleMania 37. Woo! How about Bad Bunny stealing the show as the celebrity wrestler?
Oh,
Love Shane McMahon getting thrown off the top of the steel cage onto the canvas. That was incredible. Pap would have loved watching that stuff, wouldn't he?
Yeah, my dad loved that shit.
And it was not fake. I mean, I don't know how these guys do it, but how about this one? 7'3", 335 pounds from Nigeria. Amos attended Montrose Christian High School in Montgomery County, making his mark in WrestleMania. This guy's enormous. He played ball around the area. So that was pretty neat to see a local guy. But I have one more that I want to just recognize. Trey Mancini plays for the Baltimore Orioles. He was out of baseball last year because he had cancer. He came out the other day, stepped to the plate, took in the the crowd, the cheers and everything was amazing. You don't forget a life experience like that. First at bat since 2019, I believe, he crushed a homer. So
Yeah, go Trey.
Applause to Trey and his family for experiencing that.
I subject myself to really freaking bad baseball, man, because I am an Orioles fan in the American League and a Pirates fan in the National League. So I really put myself. I remember watching Trey play over at Frederick Key Stadium. Always, there's some great guys who've come through there. Did you guys hear about Colton Wong stepped up to bat, first at bat as a Brewer against the St. Louis Cardinals in St. Louis, and he got a standing freaking ovation. He took that at bat with tears running down his eyes. And I'm trying to think who was on the mound. One of his buddies was on the mound, and they walked him. Walked him. Yep. It really, I was like, wow, that's freaking sportsmanship right there. That's what character is. I was just excited to read that, hear that, and go and look at the little clip of it. I think that's what kids need to see that. Kids need to see that. They need to embrace that part of sports today. It's not just about money. It's not about notoriety. It's not bouncing from school to school until you get what you want. It's about making a name for yourself, playing the best you can, being a great teammate. Because at the end of the day, guys, you're going to be remembered for what you did, not for how much money you made or, how many championships you won. You're going to be remembered the character you had and if you were a good guy or not when you played your sport, in my opinion. So that great shocking facts, man. Hey, OriginalSportsPodcast.com. You got to check the website out. On the website, we are going to have posted our first round draft picks from each of us, and some of our friends at the Sports Podium podcast have also sent their first round projections for us. So check our website out for that. Also, we're going to be running a contest for some Original Sports Podcast gear. Look for that on the website. Watch for that on our social media. That's going to be happening now as we kick off our relaunch, our rebrand of the Original Sports Podcast with Mark Maradei. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. It was a fun day chatting it up with you guys. Take care. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
So sit right back. We're going to tell you a story of heroes and warriors who played for the glory. We're about to see it in your stadium chair. We know all your teams and we can go on for days. It's game time from the original. Highlights and playoffs and very special guests. It's game time on the Original Sportscast Show by the Best.